Republican Brian Cresta of Wakefield, and Tom Markham, who is also from Wakefield and running as a Democrat.
Hi, I'm State Representative Brian Cresta, and for the past 2 years I've had the distinct honor and pleasure to be able to represent this district, and most importantly the town of Middleton in the Massachusetts House of Representatives. The honor I was granted by you, the voters of this district, 2 years ago is an honor I've taken seriously. And we have accomplished a lot for this great Commonwealth, this district, and most importantly this town of Middleton over the past 2 years. And as we progress through this campaign, I want to continue to tell you what we've accomplished, but most importantly what we want to continue to accomplish over the next 2 years. So I'd like to thank the League for giving us this opportunity to be able to talk about these issues.
I'd like to start by thanking the Topsfield, Boxford, and Middleton League of Women Voters for sponsoring the video voter guide. I believe it will be a great way for residents to learn about the candidates and the important issues that are facing our district. I'm a Wakefield Democrat and presently serving as the chairman of the Wakefield Democratic Party, a graduate of Austin Prep School in Reading and St. Anselm College in Manchester, New Hampshire. For the last 10 years, I've held a government and community relations position at the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority. In that capacity, I represented the agency to state and local officials, environmental organizations, ratepayer groups, educators, and citizens. I have a solid record of community leadership, serving on many local boards, and also I've been a member and treasurer of the United Steelworkers of America, Local 9358. I think that this election is about access to state government and access to the state representative. I look forward to this forum.
One of the measures that I would support to help local communities, both municipalities and school-based, to increase cost, to help with the increased costs that are facing communities, I've already accomplished over the last 2 years. As a former selectman, I understand how important local aid is to cities and towns. That's why I've strongly supported the 5-year phase out of the lottery cap, which has brought back hundreds of thousands of dollars to this district in additional local aid. Most importantly, I've been a supporter of the education reform funding plan that has provided over $1.4 million for this district since its inception 3 years ago. I'm going to continue to fight to make sure that my district receive its fair share of local aid, but most importantly that the mandates that are placed by the state government on our cities and towns receive the financial backup that they deserve under the Proposition 2.5 law.
First and foremost, I do not think that state government works best when all it does is throw money at municipal government or school departments. So this answer cannot simply be based on pending legislation to provide more state dollars to local government. I would strongly support the school building assistance program to assist communities build and renovate schools, much like Middleton is undergoing now at the Fuller Meadow. By the state providing a noticeable portion of the funds, it allows the municipal governments to budget more wisely and to allocate a fair percentage of local tax dollars. Also in Middleton's case, I would fight for an annual state appropriation to compensate the town for expenses incurred related to its housing of the jail. It should not, the town of Middleton should not cost the taxpayers a dime to support the jail. The state and county shoved the jail down Middleton's throat many years ago and then refused to compensate the town for it. And the incumbent state representative has done little to nothing to help with this real area of need. That is something that I would fight for to get to Middleton what it rightly deserves.
Massachusetts absolutely has to help out the unfortunately 700,000 Massachusetts residents that don't have health insurance. And incidentally, of the 700,000 that don't have health insurance, 165,000 Massachusetts residents are children that are presently uninsured. That's why I was proud. In my entire career of the 2 years in the legislature, my proudest moment was voting for the health care access bill that has provided health insurance coverage to make sure that every one of the children in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts have health insurance. But most importantly, along with that, is the seniors in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that are under an income level, that are the low to moderate income senior citizens, are also receiving prescription subsidies of a $500 annual amount. This bill passed a few months ago in the legislature. Although it was controversial, I'm proud to say that I did vote for it. I was one of the only Republicans in this part of the state to actually cast a ballot for it. Another important measure that we've tackled over the past 2 years in terms of health care coverage for Massachusetts residents is the non-group health insurance bill, and that covers 2 areas. First off, those individuals that are unfortunate enough to have pre-existing conditions were banned before from getting health insurance. Now that will be lifted. If you have a pre-existing condition, you will be able to receive the much-needed health insurance. Also, portability is now part of Massachusetts law. If you're in a non-group plan, if you work for a small employer, and you unfortunately lose your job or you have to leave your job, you will have the opportunity to take your insurance with you. So not only will people that are worried about losing their job, of losing their health insurance, they can take their health insurance with them. So we've accomplished so much over the past 2 years on health insurance. We've actually been leading the nation on this. We're now going to cover children that aren't covered. We're going to help cover senior citizens with their prescription subsidies. And we're also going to be able to help those individuals that have been blocked from getting health insurance to now get health insurance. And it's been a lot we've accomplished, and we still have a long way to go.
Yes, I believe that in our society, too many people there are too many people who cannot provide even the most basic health care needs for their children. Access to emergency hospital care, access to a good doctor, access to affordable medicine is a must in 1996. We do, however, need to work out the funding mechanisms for such a healthcare system. We cannot bankrupt small business owners through sole funding requirements. Instead, we must, I believe, develop partnerships between the healthcare industry, our business and government, and work towards a manageable and affordable system of healthcare. As I have done in all of my adult professional life, I would work to build a coalition of healthcare professionals, small business leaders, insurance providers, and state officials in an effort to provide people, especially young families with children, affordable health care opportunities. Perhaps such partnerships could be focused around tax credits for business, tax incentives for insurance providers, trying to cap the outrageous costs of health care these days, and most importantly, using access to health care as a means to encourage people to get off the welfare system. However, in 1997, we can't just talk about it as the incumbent has done. We must work together to reach an affordable conclusion in everyone's best interest.
This is an issue that I believe my opponent and I do agree on. And he has been quoted as stating that he will absolutely support a law-abiding citizen's right to keep and bear arms. And that's where I agree with them. But what I know that we have to do, and I've been a strong supporter of this, are the individuals that are the law-breaking individuals that are committing crimes with guns illegally. Those are the individuals we have to target. In Massachusetts, it's a known fact that so-called assault weapons or semi-automatic weapons are committing less than 0.3% of the gun crimes in Massachusetts. Those aren't the individuals that need to be targeted. It's the 99.7% of the crimes that are committed with illegal possession of guns. That's why I supported in the legislature this year the juvenile Bartley-Fox bill that makes sure that children that are possessing guns and possessing them illegally and committing crimes with those guns a mandatory 1-year sentence in jail. I also support some other measures to make sure that we keep illegal possessions of guns off our streets and from terrorizing our cities and towns. Some of those measures are stronger penalties. If an individual is caught possessing a gun illegally, they have to pay the price. If they're caught committing a gun in the crime, they have to pay the price. If we enforce our laws on the books, we can make a difference. All the Boston media, the Boston Globe, the Boston Herald, and many of the police organizations across this state have stated that banning assault weapons will do nothing to curb crime. We have to target the areas that will curb crime. I've been proud to do that. That's why I'm a supporter of the death penalty. That's why I'm a supporter of some measures to make sure that individuals that are illegally possessing and using guns will pay the price. Unlike my Republican opponent, I support a ban on assault weapons.
On July 31st of this year, the incumbent said that banning assault weapons won't reduce crime. I could not disagree more. Of course it will. Lawful gun owners, hunters, and sportsmen are not the targets for this ban. It's criminals. Assault weapons are made for one purpose, the destruction of human life. I do not know of any hunters who are using AK-47s or Uzis to hunt ducks or deer. Criminals and gangs, especially in our inner cities, some very close to Middleton, often have more firepower than the police officers who put their lives on the line every day to protect the citizens of our town and our properties. This is unacceptable. We as a government must support the police, and we as a society must encourage the police and support their efforts by increasing things like sentences for gun offenders and by tightening up on the criminals' access to assault weapons. I support this ban. I think it is reasonable. Just as we may recall during the recent Democratic convention, President Clinton called for a ban on cop killer bullets, and I think those types of things are essential as we work towards respecting the rights of lawful gun owners, respecting the rights of people to bear arms, protect their homes, but at the same time we must address the situation of crime and the situation of the situation with criminals.
Not only do I think judges should take cases of spousal abuse into consideration when granting custody, I think they must take that into consideration. Senator Cheryl Jakes of Needham has filed legislation to do just that, and I've been a strong supporter of that measure. The fact is, if there is abuse happening in a relationship, whether it's husband on wife, boyfriend on girlfriend, if the person is abusing their significant other, most cases prove that they are going to abuse children. We have a strong commitment, and we have a need to make sure in our court systems that the children in the Commonwealth are protected. And although custody proceedings can be very contentious, we have to make sure that those are the areas that we're concentrating on. And that's why Cheryl Jakes' bill, the bill that I'm a strong supporter of, will make sure that now judges have the ability to take cases of spousal abuse into consideration when granting custody to a custodial parent. The numbers unfortunately show that a child that grows up in a household seeing abuse, unfortunately in cases, will become an abuser in later life. And we have to make sure as a society that children are protected. That's why I've supported so many of these measures. And hopefully if I get the chance to return in January, that's a bill that I want to continue to work on.
The spousal abuse question relative to custody and visitation is a very, very important one for a lot of people in our district. And I do believe that the judges should have the ability and the authority to consider the evidence of spousal abuse when casting these decisions. Making these decisions can, of course, be very difficult, but the judges, I believe, should consider evidence. If an abusive situation has been determined, a judge, in fairness to the abused spouse and the child, must make such decisions based on the best interests of the child, the best interests of the upbringing of the child. What type of environment is best in which to raise this young person in? If an abusive situation should not be tolerated and a child should not be subject to abuse in any way, this is something that we need to stand up for and allow the judges to continue to have that authority, because I think the child's interests and the spouse's health and safety must be tantamount.
Education reform in Massachusetts was a long time coming. It was a long struggle. But most importantly, it is a huge, multi-billion-dollar financial commitment by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to the school districts across this Commonwealth. In my district alone, which represents Middleton, Linfield, and Wakefield, over the past 3 years of education reform, it has meant almost $1.4 million in new